Hey everybody, welcome back to the Back to Bits podcast. My name is John Meadows. With me as always is D-Pad Danny. What's going on, Danny?
What's up, John? How you doing,
I
buddy?
am all right. How are you?
I'm hanging in there as best as I can, you know.
We only had 7 inches of rain this week, and good times. So
Yeah,
the sun finally came out today, so it was a good day. We actually had
right.
sun, so and got out and enjoyed a little bit of it. So it's always
Nice.
always a
We
good
got we got
thing.
a little bit more rain after the sun, but
Yeah, it
we'll
rained.
take what we can get.
It rained a little bit here today too, while the sun was shining. So go figure, right? I mean,
Right? Yeah, best of both worlds. Sure,
yeah,
why not?
sure, why not? Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, but whatever. It's fine. At least it's not raining anymore. Like
Right.
downpouring, like nonstop. So
Yeah.
I don't mind the rain, but 3 straight days, literally 3 straight days of it. It's like, nah, I've had enough. I'm done. I'm okay.
Yeah.
I'm good for a while.
Yeah. I've already got a pretty soft yard, so as it
Yeah.
is, and just the rain doesn't make it any better. So I'm all
Well,
right. Nonetheless.
we're on sand over here, which is unusual.
Ugh.
It's the only place in town that's on sand, and when water is setting on sand, then the ground is pretty saturated.
Right.
But now all my grass is grown, so it's like this high, everything's green. It's like, holy crap, now I got to go out and do yard work, which I hate to do. So, but oh well.
Oh well.
It is what it is. So, but we'll start off with like what we always do with any new pickups or anything like that. I'll start with mine because I know yours is pretty
Yeah.
big.
Yeah. You
so
go. You go first.
Mine's not really anything. I really haven't bought anything retro in a while. In fact, the only reason I got Super Mario Galaxy 2 was because Eric, who I do the other podcast with on the website, actually sent it to me and said you could just have it.
Oh, nice.
He's been flipping. Wii systems on eBay, I guess. With ever since the lockdown and everything started, a lot of people have made killings with Wii's. They're going for $150 now with a couple games.
Oh yeah, even like some of the oddest things are really
Yeah.
coming up in value. Things that you wouldn't expect, stuff that you see at the at like Goodwill for $2
Yeah.
normally. Stuff like I think the big commodities I've seen recently were Guitar Hero controllers.
Yeah.
Those are going for. I saw someone selling 2 Guitar Hero controllers for I think Xbox like 360 or something for $150 in good
Holy
condition. I'm
crap.
like, these are
Wow.
these are junk store items.
Yeah.
But all of a sudden, since everyone's inside, everyone's like, "Hey, let's play some Rock Band. Let's play some Guitar Hero."
Yeah, I guess it's
Crazy.
one of those things where it's parents that or that know the Wii and used to have one.
Right.
They're like, well, since we're stuck inside and the kids are out of school now, it's like, okay, well, we'll get one of these again. And so
Yep.
it's just crazy, though. I mean, he's selling I think he sold 3 or 4 with a game and with a couple games and 2 or 3 controllers and sold them for like $150, $200 on eBay and shipped.
Nice.
It's
Is he selling them just regular, or is he doing the soft mods too?
No, he's just doing them regular. He's
Okay.
finding them in his neighborhood, in his area
Yeah.
for like $30, and then he'll buy them and then flip them. So,
Right.
good for him.
Yeah, it's not a bad way to go. Package it up. People are happy with
Yeah.
it. It's a win-win.
Yeah, and he just happened to send a picture of it. It was a rather big pickup of games, and he was like, and I saw Super Mario Galaxy 2, and that's one I'd been wanting, and I told him, I said, well, I'd like that one, and I told him I'd pay him for it, and he was like, no, said, I don't, it's not worth it, said, my Mario Galaxy was a player's choice, so he actually sent me his Mario Galaxy, and so now they both match. I like to have matching sets. I hate to have one player's choice and then another one regular or something like that. So
Oh, whatever.
I know I'm picky like that when it just comes. It's like I've
Yeah,
got a
it's
couple
all-
of the old Genesis in the classic re-release with the weird. I don't know if you've seen them. They got like a blue cover with the original cover like kind of kind of like a wash or whatever. And
I have. I've seen it with I think Revenge of Shinobi.
yeah, and
They did a Sega Classics one or something
They
like
did
that.
that. They did Altered Beast.
Okay.
Seemed like there was another one, and I think I finally got rid of all of them. because it's like I like the original cover art better than I like the classic thing. I think I still got the Golden Axe. I think they did Golden Axe that way. Yeah, I can see it from here because it sticks out on the shelf. It's big. It's blue. It's blue with gold letters. It really sticks out on the shelf, so I can just turn around and go, oh yeah, there it is, Golden Axe.
Right.
So that's really, and at one point I just went through and I rebought them all just to get the nicer original covers on them because I like the original covers more than I like the. Even though the game, well, I say the game's exactly the same. Revenge of Shinobi is that weird. Depending on which version you bought, because there's like 3 or 4 versions out there where they started taking things out. And
does it have Spider-Man or Batman? Does it have Godzilla? These are the factors. Right.
Yeah, it's got where they started taking all them. It's got all that. So I don't even know which version I have. I was just glad to have the original cover because I really like the original cover art on that. But yeah, so I finally got Super Mario Galaxy, one of the most common Wii games that I've. And I think.
Well, I mean, it's common for a reason, right? It's a good one. I mean,
yeah. So that's probably. I have a feeling that's probably going to be the last Wii game I ever get because there's not a whole lot of Wii games out there I really want.
Man, you would be surprised. I am just constantly finding new games on the Wii that are just really, really good.
Yeah.
It's a much better system than people give it credit for. I mean, because there's so much shovelware and kids crap on it.
Yeah.
And all the gets the bad reputation for the casual gamer boom, I guess you could call it. But man, there are some really, really good games on that system. You just gotta sift through a lot of junk.
Mm-hmm. And there's a lot of really good JRPGs out there, but most of them are expensive now. It's like, geez, and I tried to buy a lot of those when the Wii was going out, but they were hard to find then. So it's like, even now, I figure they're probably still hard to find because they're so expensive. So,
sure.
Last Song, and of course, Xenoblade Chronicles. Nintendo just keeps releasing that on almost everything. So it's like, well, I remember when that one on the Wii was super expensive, $50, $60, $70, and now you can...
It was crazy when it was new. GameStop was selling used copies of it more expensive than the new copies that was right next to it on the shelf. It was insane.
Yeah,
it was like $50 for a new copy because I think Wii games were still going for $50, and it was like, I want to say it was like $65 or something for the used one.
I think that was, if I remember right, I think it was a GameStop exclusive. I think you could only get it at GameStop.
Was it?
I think so. That sticks in my head for some reason that game was exclusive because it kind of came out near the end of the life of the Wii there in the last year or something like that. And I want to say that was a GameStop exclusive because you couldn't get it anywhere else. That's why it was when the Wii finally went away. That's why the price of it shot up so much for a long time until it came out on 3DS, and now it's coming out next week on Switch. And so it's like, well, I'll buy it there because I don't have to use motion controls, and it's an updated version. So I like it.
That's a no-brainer.
Yeah, I liked it on.
I could use another Switch game.
Yeah, I liked it on the 3DS, but it kind of the 3DS is not a system to play an 80-hour RPG on. It's really not. So, but go ahead. Let's talk about this common, cheap, silly game that you finally got a hold of.
Man, so it's just this garbage. So my local game store, Matt's Game Exchange, they've been hit a little bit by the quarantine like everyone else has on a retail stance, but they've been pumping their online sales and stuff.
Right.
But so they've been still getting in steady trade-ins, which is great. So they have stuff to stock on their virtual shelves. They got in a copy of Flintstones Surprise at Dinosaur Peak, which, as you may know, is one of the rarest and one of the most expensive consumer grade NES games. And the reason I say consumer grade is because you have your unobtainable for most. You have your Nintendo World Championship cartridges, both gray and gold.
Which, by the way, I saw somebody selling the gray one on the Facebook group for $75,000, and people were going, "Let me run some numbers and see if I could buy that." Who in the world has $75,000 later?
Well, no, sure, but like, if you're not interested, just move along. And I
Yeah,
commented on it too. I'm like, you guys are this is just a pissing contest.
yeah,
Like, good luck on the sale. Work with somebody. Work it out in PMs. It's just
yeah.
ridiculous.
It's like, oh my
But
gosh, it's like. But anyway, sorry. It's just when you
no,
said
no, no,
that,
that's fine.
it threw me off.
No,
It
no,
threw
no.
me.
Yeah, yeah. I know exactly which it was like number 328 or something. It
Yeah,
had a chip on
exactly.
the
Yeah,
bottom broken.
yeah,
So, but you have, like I said, the Nintendo World Championship cartridges, and you also have stadium events.
right,
Which is everyone knows it's rare, but it's rare and expensive because it was the Power Pad before Nintendo had the Power Pad.
right.
Bandai came out with it. Nintendo bought it, and when they bought it, they pulled them all off the shelves, and it was only on the shelves for a very, very short amount of time. We're talking like what, like 2 weeks or something like
Something
that.
like something insane.
Right. So as a result, they're extremely rare, extremely expensive. But again, those three, the Nintendo World Championships carts and stadium events, are not really obtainable for a normal person. So when I say consumer grade,
Right.
I mean, ones that I will theoretically potentially have in my collection one day. However, I did not have $700+ to spend on a video game, and I'm like, wow, that's
Yeah.
really unfortunate because you don't see one of those very often.
Right.
So I messaged him and I said, look, I know you guys are probably struggling right now like everyone else is because of the quarantine, but if you'd be willing to do a payment plan, I can drop a couple hundred on it now and make payments over the next couple months. And he said, for you normally I would, but just because with how everything's going, I need to get that money if I can. And I'm like,
Right,
I totally
yeah.
understand, let me know. And he had somebody else that was interested in it that was supposedly going to come and get it, whatever. So I'd forgot about it. They had gotten their online shop set up, like I said. And so I was perusing there and I saw it was still up there, and I messaged him and I was like, yeah, I see that guy, I guess didn't come and get it, and said, just a reminder, I'm not trying to be pushy or anything,
Right.
but if you should decide to do a payment plan, like if you need the money now, like I can't give it all, but I can give you like $300 and work it out. So he came back and he pitched to me. He needed stuff that would move. He
Right.
needed your Marios, your Zeldas. So I was like, all right, I don't have any duplicates in that section or of that type, but I broke a rule. I broke a personal rule, and I dipped into my personal collection. I know.
Yeah, I know.
So
it's always
there
hard
was
to do that.
it is. But I got it sorted out to where I grabbed some stuff I didn't really care about and a couple things that I know would get good money. And so I'm in a position now where I got a copy of Flintstone's Surprise at Dinosaur Peak sitting on my shelf right now. And the only games I need to rebuy are Super Mario Sunshine, GoldenEye, and Super Mario 64.
Yeah.
Otherwise, the rest of it was stuff I didn't really care about. So
Right. And you can't
I
beat
consider
that.
I consider that a pretty good deal because it's a game I don't know if I would have been able to pay for outright otherwise.
Yeah.
So
And and that's the hard thing, is dipping into your collection. I had to do that once when I was out of work. I ended up selling a box copy of Metroid Metroid for the Super NES.
Super Metroid.
Yeah, Super Metroid. There was a couple other ones that I sold, and it was like, at the time, it was like I wasn't really into. I'm not really into NES or Super NES or anything like that. No big deal. And then now it's like, yeah, I really wish I'd hung on to that because the prices are getting to the point where I won't pay X amount of dollars for that anymore.
Sure.
So it's like, but something like that comes along once in a blue moon. And the thing about it is what a lot of people don't think about, because they've never either worked in a mom and pop store or or dealt with rare games like that. Most stores, they want them for a very limited amount of time. They want them to get people to come in to look at it.
It's eye candy.
Yeah, and go,
Ooh,
that's
that's
awesome.
expensive.
Look at that. It's
They
expensive.
have everything.
Yeah, and then they go over and look at this. But in reality, chances are they probably spent a good arm and a leg to get that game, and they want to get
It's hurting them.
Yeah, it's hurting them. They want to get it out. They don't want to hang on to it for a long time. Now, if it's something from like what you see in a lot of stores, and I don't think Matt ever really did that in Greensboro. He would do that in the other store when they had it in South Carolina, he would have a lot of his personal collection in the store as the eye candy, not for sale. And then, that would draw people in, but then he's not losing any money. That's his personal thing. But when you luck into getting one in a collection, and that's one thing that Matt and them really did. They buy, I remember when we first opened that store, I helped them open that store. I remember him and his dad drove to Raleigh or Durham or something like that and dropped $30,000 on somebody's personal collection and brought it in. And I've still got pictures on my phone of just boxes and boxes of games, complete in box and stuff like that. And what's the first thing they did with them? They put some of them up in the store, but they threw a lot of them on eBay to get get it out,
to get that initial money back.
So he was as happy about it as I was. Like you were saying, it was hurting him being there and not making that money back. He was in pretty deep on it because it's an expensive game. And with me giving him a couple Marios, some Pokemons, I gave him a Smash Brothers, like a couple Genesis games, just like some solid, like boom, 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 boom. And I checked like a week later on the site, and everything that I had traded to him had gone out the door. So he really appreciated it, and he was just as happy about me working with him as I was, especially since, like he said, he'll be on the lookout. So after all this blows over and he gets those in, he'll hook me up with a good price on the ones that I want to buy back. And he made his money back really quick, on those things, whereas what happens a lot of times too with expensive games like that, you get people who are, I'm real interested in that. I really want to buy that. So you're like, okay, well, I'll work with you on it. And then, okay, I'll come back next week when I get paid. And next week they don't come back. And the week after that, they don't come back. Or they come back in a month later and go, well, I just really didn't, you really kind of hurt that guy because now they've sat on it for a month and maybe they passed on 2 or 3 other people who they could have got it immediately. Yeah, so I mean, it's almost as bad as the turnip market in Animal Crossing.
Oh God, here we go.
You take a chance of buying turnips, and they may not get your money back the way you want to make your money back. So,
oh my God, get out of here with that.
But I'm just looking at the video game charting prices of it. I mean, it's kind of leveled out over the past 5 years at around $500 to $700, but there was a couple spikes there in 2013, $1,400, $1,300. It got up really high. But now would you consider Little Samson in this category of obtainable
consumer grade? Absolutely. I feel like it's not out of the realm of possibility that I'll ever own a Little Samson. However, if I do ever own it, if and when I do ever own it, it will be a situation where it was similar to this, where it comes in a local spot and they work with me and I can either trade towards it or pay towards it, or B, it'll be the last NES collection I buy in my collection because it'll be the last one I need, because that's the only way I'm going to be able to save up that 13, 14, who knows how much $100 will be at the time when I can finally get it. So yes, it's obtainable. I will own one day, but it may be the last one I ever get. I mean, who's to say?
And what's funny is I've always been of the mind where it's like, well, maybe I should, instead of when I buy game lots, take what I want out of them, flip the lot real quick. A lot of guys, they just buy game lots and lots, take what they want out, bank the rest of it, and then use it as trade fodder when a situation like that comes up. If I was a hardcore collector who was trying to get a complete set or close to a complete set, I would probably do that more. But me, I'm in it to just get what I want and get it out.
Sure, yeah. And I have had situations where I've had a pretty good trade bait pile, but here recently it's slim pickings, especially after this. Like I looked in there's some sports games for the Genesis. I think there's a UFC game for Dreamcast. I'm like, this is $1-2 crap, Like I was able to pull out like a copy of Sonic and Knuckles that was missing the flip flap on it. So I pulled through that in the pile. I'm like, well, that's a $10 game. Sure, why not? But yeah, I've got garbage in there right now.
That's why I'm kind of glad I got like my Panzer Dragoon Saga like 20 years ago.
Right.
I think I paid like $60 for that thing on eBay. On a late night auction at like 1 o'clock in the morning. But I never dreamed that it was ever. I mean, that thing's getting close to $1,000 now too.
Yeah,
You know,
it's crazy, man.
and I just put it in a box. I played it, put it in a box, and put it on the shelf. When we moved to North Carolina, it came out of the box and then went in the closet and sat in the closet for another 15 years before I realized, oh, wait a minute, the thing's worth a lot, and now I won't touch it. Now it's on my shelf, and I'm afraid to hold it because it's like,
Yeah, I don't even want to look
yeah,
at it.
I don't even want to take a chance of dropping it in that case because, oh my God,
Right.
it's like, and it's games like that are funny because you either care or you don't care. It's, as far as
Well,
it's like because I'm sure you've pulled it out and played, your Flintstone. I haven't seen you do it on a stream yet. What's
oh
up
yeah,
with that?
oh yeah, yeah. No, I did.
Did
Within
you?
the first week,
I
I
missed
did a
that.
full playthrough on stream. Yeah,
Uh,
it's a fun game.
I missed.
But yeah, and I pull Panic Restaurant down frequently to play.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, so I'm like in that middle ground of like, yeah, I care. Like these are expensive games, and I'm like, they're awesome to have, but I'm like, I'm not gonna just keep them on the shelf and not touch them. I'm gonna play the mofo's. I mean,
Well, yeah, I mean,
straight up.
yeah, and that's the thing. It's like cartridge games, no big deal. CD games,
Yeah.
it's more like
That's a little, you don't want to scuff them, you don't want to
Yeah,
scratch
I'll
them,
take a
you don't want to hold them, you don't want to get your oils on them and start that disc rot process.
oh yeah, it's like oh my gosh, now it's like this rot. $978 is what price charting has Panzer Dragoon at right now. That's insane.
Yeah.
It's also sad that I've taken out a homeowner's policy based on the worth of my video game collection over anything else.
I'm actually in the process of, I hid the value column for my spreadsheet because I used my spreadsheet for, request streams. So
Right.
I don't want some randos with read access to be able to see that. So I've had them hidden for so long that my prices are so far behind that I need to go through, but it's going to be a long process. I got
Yeah.
like 1,400 video games or something. I got to go through each one and to the best of my ability, find the price and update that so I can have a ballpark figure. But it's been a while. It's been, geez, probably about 2 years at least since I've upgraded
Right.
the prices. And I've bought a lot of games since then.
Yeah.
So
Well, and that's why I kind of like using the app, the Pure Gaming app that I use because it just updates automatically, and it's
Yeah.
it's not always 100% right. It pulls from price charting, so and sometimes it doesn't. It'll set on there for a while. So some games will be incorrect, but it's close enough to know. But the bad thing is it only does like from 360 on down. So like it doesn't have my PS4, my Xbox One,
your Switch
my
stuff, which
Switch
is a pretty
stuff.
substantial
Yeah,
collection.
which is so it's like, well, I don't have any of that. So then I got to get another program to put all that stuff in to keep my modern stuff, and it's like, ugh, blech. So
Yeah.
I just pretty much
That's
valued my
that's def-
retro, and that's it.
yeah, that's definitely the perk to going with one of those apps and stuff. I mean, I like my spreadsheet. The only downfall is, yes, ever so often I have to go through and manually update it, and as it gets bigger, it's going to become more and more of a daunting task,
Yeah.
especially for my wife because I always get her to help me. She's always just, begrudgingly helping me out just because she wants to be nice.
I
But,
hate spreadsheets. I can't stand them. I use them for work, and
I don't
hate them. I don't like them.
if I stare at them all day, I start going cross-eyed. But
Yeah.
on typically I don't have anything against them.
Yeah, I don't like them. I've dealt with this week. I've dealt with spreadsheets, 2 different spreadsheets, and Streets and Trips, and importing spreadsheets and into Streets and Trips, and doing this and doing that. And when somebody says spreadsheets, I just go, nope, I'm done with spreadsheets. So, but I like simple and easy. But I know most people use spreadsheets. That's what everybody they use spreadsheets.
It's been a standard for a long
Yeah.
time
That's-
for data
Yeah.
stuff.
That's like Eric. He uses his, and he uses his. He could sit down and tell you how much he spent on video games in 2010 and how much he sold video games for in 2010, and he can tell you. I mean, he keeps them down to the dime.
Yeah,
It's
mine doesn't. Mine doesn't go that deep, and I've often considered like, man, maybe I should have like put how much I paid for each one as I put them in here, so I could have that what it's worth now comparison.
Right.
But well, it's too late now.
Oh yeah. Some of them I can't even remember because I got them 20 years ago. I got the bulk of my collection 20 years ago. So, I mean, I've got.
And once you get to the point where you start rebuying games you forgot that you already had, then you're not going to remember what you paid for everything.
Right? Yeah. That's the one nice thing about having the app on my phone. I have not rebought games that I thought I have. I've almost done it. I've went through the store and go, oh man, I really want this game. Wait a minute. Let me check and make sure I got it. Never mind.
And the one time you don't check your app is the one time you accident, or you're in a flea market that has bad signal, and you're like, I don't think I have this one.
Yeah.
No, well, crap. Well, into the trade bait pile.
Yep, pretty much. So, I thought we don't do a ton of news, but if there is newsy type of stuff, I like to throw it in here real quick. I know a lot of people know John Riggs in the retro gaming community. He showed off a new Sega Master System program flasher that I thought was just absolutely really phenomenal and cool and pretty easy and inexpensive to do. There's in the show notes, there's a link to his YouTube video where he talks about it. I'm trying to pull up the website with the flasher board and the programmer. And what's really cool about it is they call it a SMSMP program that does it. And what I find really cool is the little flasher chip actually has prompts for Game Gear, but there is no connector on there, but maybe someday they'll do Game Gear. Who knows?
Sure.
But it's like $46 for the flasher, and the boards are, I think they're pretty cheap too. They're let me scroll down here. They're $13 a board. So that's pretty cool if you like to do that kind of thing, make your own repo carts or homebrew carts or something like
Hacks
that.
And what.
Yeah, and you could convert SG-1000 to Sega Master System and then flash them on that and play them on your system, which is really cool. Yeah, I think that's
going to be one of the bigger drives in the retro community, especially because you're starting to see more people who have an appreciation for the older Sega consoles, and with being able to modernize it just a tiny bit,
Yeah. And make it a little easier, more attainable to get some of those obscure. Because, I mean, if you watch the video, it's simple to do. I mean, if you got the ROM, you just drop it into the program converts it, and then just directly flash it. It takes like 2 seconds. Just boom, you've made a cartridge, drop it into a case, and boom, you're good to go. I mean, it was just so simple. And like I said, it seemed pretty cheap to me. And I know there's a lot of guys out there that do homebrew games for the Sega Master System, and a lot of times they'll just release them, release the ROM so you can play them on an EverDrive or a flash card or emulator or whatever. But really, for this, at $12, $13 a chip, that's pretty obtainable for somebody to buy a bunch of them and do a 50 print run of cartridges and stuff. So
that's what I'm excited to see because I'm a big fan of homebrews, but you always 99% of the time it's on the NES. You see some people do Genesis and Super Nintendo, but it's all NES. I mean, I get it; it's a great console. Everyone loves the NES. But I'm excited to see some stuff on some other consoles. And the Master System, I would like to get me some Master System repros. Yeah, absolutely. Well, not so much repros of translated games because without it, with it's not being it's not region locked.
Right, it's not region.
But I want to see what people are going to come up with. I want to see some cool new stuff.
Yeah, especially when people could do the FM, the FM modulation for the music, so it'll sound really cool and better than regular. So and I thought that was really, really interesting to see something fairly that I thought was fairly affordable.
Yeah, absolutely.
I mean, even if somebody wants to get those, buy the chips, buy cartridges, cases, and paper, and sell them for $50-$60. They're gonna. It's not a lot of times that's where your money gets wrapped up in is your cartridge or your chips. Chips are expensive, and some of them are harder to find than others, and
Yeah.
But something for Sega Master System is pretty cool. So I know, like I said, there's a lot of homebrew out there, and I know there are a lot of people out there working on homebrew games because since I'm more of a Sega guy than an NES guy, I see a lot of those, follow a lot of those people online. So it'd be interesting to see if they pick up on this and maybe get some physical versions of their game out there. So. One thing we wanted to talk about too was video game vinyl. This is more of Danny's area. I know I've been sending him links. I see people all the time on Twitter and stuff posting about albums coming out, vinyl albums coming out. And I want to say, I don't know what the one was I sent you the other day. I can't even remember now. It was kind of off the wall.
Was it Life Force, right?
Life Force, yeah, I think that was it.
Yeah, because the cover art was really really cool.
Yeah, I saw that and was like, "Ooh, that's cool," and I sent it to you because I know you. I am familiar with Data Discs that does those. When we talked about pre-show, they did.
Right.
They're a lot of heavy into the Sega stuff, so I know they did Streets of Rage and
they did Outrun,
and
Golden Axe, Panzer Dragoon, Gunstar Heroes,
Shenmue.
Yep.
And those were like the ones that I was like, ooh, I'd really like to have those. And those are fairly affordable, around $20. 20. I don't know what the exchange is. I know they're £20 or €20 or whatever.
Yeah, there's some that are 20, there's some that are 35, and yeah, that's in UK currency. That's not in USD. But yeah, I mean, I don't think it converts over too much. I mean, it's probably pretty comparable. Yeah. But yeah, they have a lot of the Sega oriented ones, and I have quite a few myself. I don't think I've gotten any from Data Discs, but we got a couple URLs in the show notes for different sites that you can get different ones, because different licenses, you're going to have different websites that are going to be pushing out or pressing different ones. Right. I have a couple of them from Mondo. Mondo does discs. I got my wife a Katamari Damacy double disc. It's really pretty. The one of them's like green and blue, and the other one's like pink and yellow. They're really flashy. And my wife in turn got me the Castlevania 1 soundtrack. It's a 45.
Yeah.
Well, it's not a 45, but it's like a 12-inch disc. Still really nice with the good artwork and stuff.
Yeah.
But what started delving into this sub-hobby of video games for me is on Nintendo Age, before the site fell apart underneath everyone's feet, there was a guy, this was years ago, probably, I want to say 6 or 7 years ago. His handle was Random Haya, like Snatcher, right?
Yeah.
Like the character from Snatcher. But he made a thing called Moonshake Records, and he didn't have a storefront. Most of it was through Etsy, but he said, you know what? I want to do this as a labor of love. I want to make some soundtracks that I really like. Would people be interested in limited runs of these? And everyone's like, oh, yeah, put me on, And the first one he did was Mega Man 2. So the first one I got was the Mega Man 2 soundtrack, and it's just, it's so good on vinyl. I know it's just blips and bloops and whatever, and I know it's kind of a cliche hipster thing to say, it sounds better on vinyl. But sometimes it does. It's just got a unique sound, and I like it. But he put out a couple other ones from him. He also did Mega Man 3, which had Mega Man 1 on it as well, since the Mega Man 1 soundtrack is real tiny in comparison.
Right.
He did a Castlevania Greatest Hits. He did a Metroid and Super Metroid, NES Greatest Hits 1 and 2 that had random ones, and sadly, he's not doing it anymore. He closed shop, but one of the last ones he did was Sonic 3, and he did 3 random ones, which was pretty cool. It's like he said, for the last 3, I'm going to do a Genesis, and I think he said a PlayStation and maybe an N64. I don't remember. Just let me know if you want to buy in, and I'll reveal what it is later after they're all, all the orders are in. So it's like, let me get a random. I'll roll the dice on a random Genesis thing, and it ended up being Sonic 3. But what's really cool about his in particular is all of his covers are spoofs of other existing famous records.
Oh, okay, that's cool.
Yeah, like his Castlevania one is it's a parody of London Calling from The Clash, and it's, instead of him slamming the guitar down, he's holding the whip while he's slamming it down. Yeah,
that's pretty cool.
Yeah, the Mega Man 3 one is a Flaming Lips parody. The Metroid one is a Smashing Pumpkins parody. It's pretty cool the stuff that he was doing.
Now,
It's unfortunate.
I can't imagine how much that cost him to make. Because
Yeah,
I'm sure he didn't get licenses for them. I'm sure they're unlicensed.
now, later on, he did start trying to get some like doing it legit, and I think he
Yeah.
did for one or two, but he had a lot of hate mail, people saying, "Oh, you don't have the license," when it's like he went through his due diligence and stuff, and I think that was part of why he ended up stopping
Probably
doing
yeah.
what he was doing, because he just started getting a lot of unnecessary hate, which is a shame. This is why we can't have nice
Well,
things.
yeah, I know. Don't even get me started. We went to Walmart today and had to. Never mind. I'm not even going to get.
Yeah, well, we don't speak. We don't speak about it. But there's other options out there. Fangamer, as we all know, they have a lot of really cool video game and nerd centric apparel and such. They have started doing vinyl in the last couple of years. They carry some really cool ones. Right now, they have one for VVV, which if you haven't played it on PC or 3DS or Switch or wherever you can download it, it's on everything. It's super cheap. Play it. The soundtrack is amazing. I was going to buy it.
That thing's got a great soundtrack. Celeste. I was just looking through what they got here. They've
Oh yeah. They got a lot of the big name indie ones.
Yeah.
They also have they have Banjo Kazooie. They got the rights to that one. Jack and Daxter.
Mother 1 and 2.
But it's crazy. Everyone's got the rights for Mother 1 and 2 because I actually have. That was going to bring me to another one of them. I have. Well, that might actually be through them. Now that I think about it. Another site that sells video game vinyl is Ship to Shore Phonoco, Phono Company, and the one that they have on Fangamer is that same one. Just they're selling it on Fangamer, and you can also get that directly from the site. But I believe there's other ones on the site that you can't get other places either.
Wow, here's the Stardew Valley complete vinyl soundtrack box set. It's sold out, but man, it looks sharp. And that's what I like about these vinyl records. I don't have a record player or anything like that, but I like the art on them. I think the art is cool. The way the records actually look. I could see myself buying them and collecting them, not ever having a record player to play them.
They're just really neat conversation pieces to have.
The Snatcher one is fantastic looking. I mean, it is so cool with the fold out. It folds out because I think it's a double. It looks like it's a double album, so it folds out and it has all the inlay, cover art, and man, it is really sharp.
And that's one thing you'll see. I mean, it'll vary depending on who's distributing it, who's doing the presses, special editions or anything like that. But some of the stuff that they do with just the paper production and just the designs, and it's just really, really nice presentation that they really put out on these. And like I said, there's probably a dozen more sites out there, and you can always go on eBay. I'm sure people sell them third party there, but yeah, it's a growing market. Video game vinyl, it's really neat.
The metal
hobby to get it.
The Metal Gear original MSX2 vinyl soundtrack looks great because you look at it on the front and you're like, that is the most generic thing I've ever seen in my life. But it was on that system. It wasn't like it was, the cover art was just a basic cover art of a dude running from a helicopter shooting his gun.
Right.
Man, there's some really, really cool ones, and that cool green splash. Yeah. I could really get into that. And what would be bad was I could really get into it and then take them and have them framed and hang them on a wall. With the album and the cover, and oh my gosh,
that would be cool to do, like old school style. But I don't have the wall space.
I have a whole other section of a basement over there that I could just take that wall with whatever I want on it. But I must not do that. I must
resist. You don't need it. You don't need another video game rabbit hole. To go down. especially if you're not even going to listen to
Right.
it, you're just collecting
Well,
for shelf
pay
purposes.
$20 for a vinyl record and then spend $100 to get it framed. You know?
Yeah, no doubt. You know, but
Yeah,
I just wanted to talk about that. I thought that would be a fun subtopic.
yeah.
And we do have another subtopic for the show, John. If you wanted to go ahead
Oh,
and
yeah, yeah, yeah.
go into our next one.
And the reason that I kind of thought about that this week is I don't know how you say their name, Terra Onion, I guess is how you say it, Terra Onion. They brought out the SD card adapter for the PC Engine that had RGB out and everything like that. It runs like $200 or $300, and it does it's like a EverDrive built into a RGB connection for your PC Engine or TurboGrafx 16, but it also runs TurboGrafx PC Engine CD-ROMs on it too, so you can have the entire set on an SD card, play it on your system with the RGB out. Really, really nice thing. Well, this week or a couple weeks ago, they came out with the Dreamcast/Saturn ODE system that is a replacement for like the GDMU for the Dreamcast and the Sega Saturn, so you can take out your optical drive and drop in this and run games off the optical drive, or and run games off the SD card instead of an optical drive.
Right.
And which is a great way to preserve optical media because, like we talked earlier in the show about disc rot, the high failure rate of lasers on disc-based systems. And it's kind of getting to the point where it's kind of hard to find CD lasers that are compatible with these older systems because some of them are very specific. So I understand why they're doing that. They are a little bit on the expensive side. If I can get my mouse to work for me, I know you
180 euros.
Yeah, 180 euros, and I know that translates to a little over $200 American, and that's not even shipped. But it's very cool because it's pretty much just pull out this, drop it in, put them all on your SD card, you're good to go. I've seriously considered doing it for a Saturn that I have because I have two Saturns. I have a V1 and a V2. The V1 is actually one that the CD-ROM doesn't work very well in it, and I've actually turned the pots up on that CD-ROM to make it run good, but when you adjust the pots, it causes the CD I to wear out faster. So eventually it is just going to go and this is a version 1 that I found in a trash. It has no screws in it, so I can just lift off the top whenever I want and then put it back together. I never put any screws in it or anything like that. So it would be a good candidate for this. But kind of getting back to when does original hardware stop being original hardware? You look at the GDMU that came out for the Dreamcast a couple years ago. That one you have to modify the power supply in the Dreamcast to get it to work. Now people have come out with replacement power supplies that you can just drop in. And there's a link that I put in our show notes that you can see if you go to the site. With modded Dreamcast, now you can get the GDMU, you can get the replacement power supply, you can get a fan that's quieter than the original fan. It looks like the original fan, but it runs smoother and quieter. Really, the only original thing left on most of these ones that's modded, you can even mod out with the HDMI thing, the HDMI mod. So now you're at literally nothing is original in that thing except the control ports in the front of it and the shell of the system. And, I'm still playing on original hardware. Well, are you or aren't you?
Yeah.
Because those GD-ROMs, when you pull those GD-ROM replacements, you're pulling out the processor and everything, most of it.
Yeah.
The Saturn one you're not, but the Dreamcast one, the whole board and everything comes out. Literally all the guts are coming out, and that GDMU is what's running that system. So you're not actually running it on original hardware. You're running it on a modified hardware I don't know. To me, it's like everybody wants. I'm all for preserving, stuff
Sure,
like that.
yeah.
But at the same time, it's like, does it get to the point where you're really not playing it on original hardware? And what I see a lot of people do is they gut the power supply, the lasers out of them, and then they sell those things online. So you're pretty much, it's almost like you're taking a car and cutting it into pieces at a scrapyard and selling off the bits and just keeping the shell. At what point is original hardware going to start to become hard to find on a system that was readily available at one time? That's the other thing that I always wonder.
Well, first of all, I feel like if we're gonna cover a topic like this in general, we should say standard protocol blanket statement. First of all, we don't care how you play your games.
No,
we do not care. If you want to deck it out and you want to have like LEDs and stuff, that's your prerogative. Enjoy the games. That's what's important to us. I think I can speak for exactly. Okay, so that being said, if you're just looking to say I'm playing on original hardware, just to tout that, yes, I'm playing on original hardware. I mean, whatever. That's again, that's your thing. But mods, God, this is such a weird topic, though. So I'm okay with mods. Like,
right.
You see them all over the place. Like you're talking about, you got to replace this, replace that, make this run smoother. So I feel like if it's a mod that replaces something, if you're replacing something, it's no longer original.
Right. I agree.
Now, if you're adding something, like if you're leaving it as is, but adding like an AV out or an HDMI out or an LED light or something like that, I still think it's an original.
Yeah,
I still think it's original. It's modified, but it's the meat and potatoes, the guts at its core, it is still the same.
Right.
But like if you're gonna do like remove the optical drive, like you said, and pop in the disc reader, I don't consider that original. If you're going to, like you said, with the Dreamcast and the Saturn, where they rip everything out and put everything back into, I don't think that's original.
No.
But also you got to say, because again, especially on Twitch, this is where you see this a lot, is on Twitch, where people say original hardware or real hardware. Like, what does it even mean to begin with? Like, technically, you're playing it on real hardware. So that term I don't like seeing anyway. If you're playing it on a computer, that hardware is real. It's physical. It's hardware. But to say, yes, I'm playing on original hardware, I always put an asterisk on mine, because I'll play because if I'm playing a Game Boy Advance game and I'm using the Game Boy player, or if I'm using the Super Retro Advance for my Super Nintendo to play that Game Boy Advance game, that is not technically original hardware for that game. So you also have to consider how it relates to the software as well. Like if you're going to say, well, I modded this Wii, right? I modded this Wii. It did a hard mod, but it still has WiiWare stuff on it. When I play the WiiWare stuff on this Wii, let me restart that. Let's say somehow you replace the optical drive on your Wii to something that's going to be faster. It's going to render like textures faster, or somehow it's going to do something better than what the original one did. But if you play a downloaded game on that Wii, that is still original hardware as it pertains to that game. But if you pop a disc in it, it is no longer original hardware for that game. So it's such a multifaceted, and it's so much of it is up for interpretation. You could say, well, I mean, I ripped out the coaxial input and put in like my TurboGrafx. I have an LED mod, but I also have an AV mod. So to do the AV mod, it wasn't like, the connector piece that came with it. They had to replace that slot for the RF adapter to make it AV out. So it's not technically original anymore. It's not in its original state. Does it still play the original games? Yeah, but it's pushing out an output that's not native to it. And it wasn't an addition, it was a replacement. So I think for me, my big line is, if it modifies the way it plays the software or displays the software, other than controllers, because controllers is its own thing. If it modifies the way it's played or the way it's displayed in a manner that it's not supposed to, and something was removed to make it that way, that is no longer original.
Yeah.
But if you just added something like I added an additional output, then it's still original hardware, but you could also argue, but it's going out the different output that you added, so
Right.
it's not really
Well,
so again, it's like,
to,
where
to
yeah.
me, original hardware is the processor that's on the motherboard powering this game.
Okay.
Output is not that big a deal to me because
Sure.
I have a RGB modded NES. Is it still run the same processor? Is it still run the same as a NES does? Sure. It just pushes out a signal a different way, and it has a chip on it that boosts the signal.
Okay.
But when you take like on the Dreamcast, when you take the guts out of it and replace it with a GDMU, I mean, pretty much you're just running a emulator at that point, in my opinion.
With the shell,
yeah,
right?
with the shell, because all you're doing is using the power source of the Dreamcast and the cartridge or the controller ports of the Dreamcast. The rest of it's all done through hardware, because if every game's not 100% compatible on it, which it isn't, it won't. To me, that's not original hardware. Hardware,
True.
I mean, you're essentially using an emulator and outputting it on your TV. I mean,
Right.
to me, when you're using the GDMU, there's no difference in using that and a Raspberry Pi to play Dreamcast games. And and I know a lot of people could say,
Which
well,
is fine.
yeah, that's fine. I mean, there's nothing wrong with that. I use emulators all the time to do arcade games. In fact, I'm seriously considering getting a Raspberry Pi 4, because the emulation now with that thing is so good. It will run Dreamcast games 1-to-1, 100%. So
Nice.
I kind of want that, just to have, though I have 100 Dreamcast games, it would be nice to have them all on something that I could just plug in and play.
Right.
But at the same time, as I talk about, oh yeah, I'd really like to get that from a Dreamcast. I'd really like to get that GDMU from a Dreamcast. At the same time, I really don't want to take the insides out and replace it with just a shell.
Yeah.
It's like, to me, it loses something at that point. It's not.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's just a weird thing, and I know a lot of streamers just use emulators, and that's fine.
Right.
I totally
It's
get that.
easy.
It's easy.
Accessible, right?
Yeah, it's easier to do that than it is to try to figure out how you're going to hook up a NES that has AV out, and it's only mono sound, a stream card, and do this and run it through that, and
it's a lot of work.
Yeah, it's a lot of work. The RetroTink has simplified a lot of that, because it's really plug and play. But at the same time, still, it's like, well, I don't even have to have a capture card. I can just run an emulator on my PC and sit here and just run OBS, and I can just play it, and it's fine.
Right.
I still prefer to play it on original hardware when I can. But I don't know. It was just, to me, it's just a real interesting topic to talk about.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Because I see some of these guys that got them all tricked out, and it's just like, man, I've done everything I could do to my Dreamcast. It's like, yeah, you've totally stripped the Dreamcast of its heart and replaced it with.
Well, and to be fair, again, we just these are just our opinions.
Yeah,
on where the line,
and I don't care.
And I would love to hear other people's opinions, because it's really, like you said, it is an interesting topic, and everyone's might vary just a little bit. And my opinion isn't necessarily right. Neither is John's.
No.
Like we're just here to have a good time and wax philosophical game.
Yeah. And like I say, if that's the way you would, and I have no problem with anybody doing that. I mean, that's fine. You do whatever you want to do. You do you.
Right.
And
that's what you have to.
Yeah. It's just kind of strange to me, but that's just me. It's like. And I'm not saying that everybody out there is immediately that does it's going, oh no, I'm still playing on original hardware. No, I don't think a lot of them are. They kind of
call it what you want. Like, if you think you're playing on original hardware, go for it.
Yeah,
whatever.
I mean, it's fine.
You're not necessarily wrong. You're not necessarily right.
Right.
You're playing on something, and we're enjoying it. So
when I think mods are great for systems. I need to do an RGB mod for my Super NES Junior, because technically that thing should do RGB. They just didn't connect it to do
Put a cord on it.
RGB.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's like, well, all I got to do is put a couple of wires here and a couple of wires there, and boom, I've got, RGB on it. Or I can get it a little lamp to throw on there, and it will make RGB look even better. I want everything that I have to look like my NES.
Yeah.
My RGB NES just looks so beautiful that I wish everything could look that way.
If you end up doing that SNES Junior, let me know, because I have one that I've had for years and years. And yeah, if that works out and it looks real nice, let me know.
Yeah, I'm planning on doing it. I bought this one new at Walmart back in '99 for like $30.
Oh, wow.
And I just kind of picked it up on a whim. They just happened to have it in the electronic section. I just went, oh, there's a Super NES, brand new in the box. You don't see that every day. I'll buy it.
You don't.
And I just, now it sits on the shelf because it's not RGB out. So it's like, well, I really can't use it real well on it doesn't look as good as my regular one does. So it's like, and it's not a hard mod to do. You just get the chip and solder, I think, 3 wires on there, and that's it. I mean, that's all there is to it. It's not really a whole lot of work to do.
It sounds like something simple enough that I can do.
Yeah. It's just I haven't done it. Haven't paid the $30 for the chip. So, but I mean, that's always the thing that's interesting to me. It's like the Game Gear thing that we were talking about a couple of weeks ago, that the consoleization of the Game Gear that hopefully I'll be getting here before long. They've done that with the Virtual Boy. At what point, that's still original hardware. You're just not playing it the way it was intended to play anymore.
Again, as I said, you're changing the way it's displayed.
Right.
So by my association, by my opinion, my standards, whatever, that wouldn't be original. I mean, but by yours it would be.
Yeah, but see, by mine it would be, because it's exactly.
It just goes to show you that, like, there's so many different possibilities on this one.
Yeah, and it's still crazy. It's getting that consoleized version of the Virtual Boy. It's really kind of made me want to buy a broken Virtual Boy and have that done. Because
even the broken ones are like $150.
They're really
because
expensive.
People know, like, these, you're gonna want this just to put on your shelf anyway. You're probably not going to play the working one you buy, so I'm going to try to pinch out as much as I can out of the used one.
One of these days, I'm going to do that, because I really want to play some of the games on it. Even though I think there's even a flash card for it now, because some of those games are so expensive. So it's like, and I know that the chip they make for the TV out, you could do different colors, so it doesn't have to be red. It could be white. It could be blue. It could be gray.
Can you change that on the fly with like a button or something? Or,
there's a button on it that you can change it with.
That's cool.
So that's nice to not, because you think about playing Virtual Boy Red on a screen, the burn-in would be very
exactly.
Very, very
you want to
easy.
Rotate those colors every once in a while. That's why Atari, every room would be a different color in Atari games, because they're like, we don't want to burn this. We don't want to be responsible for ruining your $700 32-inch tube TV.
It was hilarious. Have you ever played Mafia 2 on the 360?
I haven't played much 360 at all.
It's a really cool game. They just remastered it for Xbox One, PS4, and I started playing it again. And there's a part where you're sneaking around a building, and I totally forgot about it because it's set in the 40s and 50s, and it's 2 security guards talking to each other. One's on one side of the room, one's on the other, in this big hall. And they're talking about a TV. Oh, I got a TV the other day. Oh, well, look at you, Mr. Rich Guy. You bought a TV. He goes, there's not much on it but cartoons because of this and that, and because of the war and this and that. And he goes, you know what I'd really like to see somebody do with the TV is make a game on it. So you could, like, have a box where you have buttons that you could make people, like, shoot things and do things. And, oh, that's just crazy talk. Well, you watch. They'll make that someday. It's like,
you gotta love that fourth wall nonsense.
Yeah, I was like, wait a minute, we just broke the fourth wall on that. But yeah, so and me and the wife have been watching What's My Line from the 50s. We've been watching those old shows, and it's funny to hear them talk about how TV is a great way to get information out to people instantaneously instead of waiting for them to come to a movie theater and watch it. Yeah, it's like so weird to go back and watch that stuff now. It's like, that's what we've been entertaining ourselves with in the evenings late at night. And it's like, oh, we'll just watch some old. You can go on YouTube and pull them up and sit there and watch 2 or 3 of them in a row.
Look at these people. Look how simple things were.
Yeah,
look at that hair.
Simple. Yeah. Look how simple that was back then. Oh, look how they treat ladies back then.
Shoulder pads. What are we playing, football?
Oh yeah, it's just funny. But yeah, it's an interesting topic with when does original hardware stop being original hardware? And if you have an opinion on it, feel free to email us at retro@the-gamers-lounge.com. You can tweet us that thing. You can send me private messages on Twitter. You can hit us up on Facebook. We have the Gamers Lounge has a Facebook page that you can go to, and you can go on the website and email us directly there. And I'll be more than happy to hear people's opinions about things like that and talk about them on the show. So, I would.
And if you have any show topics you want to send our way, we're happy to hear some ideas.
Absolutely, I'm always up for new, interesting topics that I or Danny might not think of, because we can think of a lot, but there's a lot of things that we probably never even.
Well, I wouldn't say a lot. There's probably a few topics we wouldn't think of.
Yeah, okay, a few.
Because we're this is a highbrow show.
I like to think my brain is big. So, Danny, do you have anything going on this week that you wanna let everybody know about? Anything interesting?
Yeah, well, I'm taking a break from Twitch just because I'm tired of fiddling with hardware issues and internet problems every time. It's just becoming increasingly frustrating. But
it's hard right now.
It is. Well, I mean, yeah,
there's a lot of traffic.
Exactly. ISPs are taking a hit. The platforms are taking a hit, and I'm like, okay, I got stuff I got to do around the house anyway, so I'm taking a little bit of a break. But a happy little byproduct of it is I am working on YouTube stuff more actively, and I just put out one today. As of this recording, I put out a review of Felix the Cat for the NES. Yep. So if anyone likes that kind of stuff, check it out on my YouTube channel, D-Pad Danny. But otherwise, I'm not really doing too much. John, you got anything crazy going on?
No, we'll have another show, a regular podcast next Saturday. Other than that, I'm not much. We're finally done working out of town, so I might try to get some live streams in on the weekends or something like that. We're not doing. Finally got done with our resets in Pennsylvania, so I know there's some other stuff coming up, but it's not going to be that. I'm going to be gone every week for the next 2 months.
Sure.
So I'll be able to hang around here local for a couple of weeks anyway, so I'm hoping maybe to get back into the swing of things. It's kind of hard when you work out of town to try to set up on a regular schedule, because then, when you're home on the weekends, you got yard work to do and grocery stores to go to, and
you got so many chore things to do because you've been out for so long. You can't enjoy your weekend.
Yeah, and I check in on Mom and do things for her, and it's like that takes a lot of time too. So hopefully you'll be able to, since things are starting to get somewhat back to normal around here, but we still can't take a vacation. So it's like, as much as my wife wants to go to the beach, I know she wants to go to the beach. We're working on it.
Yeah,
but we'll see. But all right, guys. Well, thanks a lot for hanging out with us and listening to the show. And we're going to try to come back in 2 weeks. We'll see how things go.
Air quotes.
Yeah. Sometimes it ends up being a month, but it might be 2 weeks. That's what we always.
We don't know when. But there will be another. There will be another one.
Yeah, there'll be another one. Follow us at Back to Bits on Twitter. That way, you can always stay up to date on when shows go live. Or if you want to come join us in the chat, that we also tweet it out when the live stream is too. So, all right, guys. Well, once again, thanks for listening and hanging out with us, and we will catch you guys next time.
Take care.